G'day everyone, my name is Rorz and today we're going to be breaking down the worst Looksmaxxing copes, starting from astronomical cope, going all the way down to it's not a cope at all. Okay, first up is just be yourself, bro. Now you can definitely say this one in a couple different ways, but for the way I'm going to interpret it is when people use this phrase in relation to picking up girls. I definitely think the main type of person giving this advice has never really truly experienced rejection before and has never really been rejected enough to cause too much introspection. Now, because this phrase is typically used by someone with the first name Chad, I'm going to have to put this one into somewhat copey, as well because Chad doesn't exactly need to cope unlike you. Next up, we have personality over looks. I think when people use this one, it's always trying to disprove the argument of that looks matter, not really in relation to the fact that personality matters, which it does. Obviously, this is a Looksmaxxing channel. We all know the better you look, on average, the better treatment you're going to get in the majority of social circumstances, but I can definitely see the argument where personality would be more important than looks. Although it's a pretty vague statement, it doesn't ever really exactly explain why personality is more important than looks. You could be using this one in relation to applying to a modeling agency, for example, where it is obviously not true, or you could use it in the context of being in a serious relationship, where I believe that is definitely the case. But in essence, when people say this stuff, it is typically a cope because they know they don't look good. Also, personality is subjective. A nice guy that's a normie versus a nice guy that's handsome, well, the handsome guy's always going to win. I would definitely say when this phrase is used, it is definitely used as cope. So with that being said, it's going to go into copes here. Next up is looks mean nothing if you're broke. Once again, this really depends on the context and also the age that the person is. If you're in your teens or early 20s, no one really expects you to be a millionaire yet. However, if you're in your 30s or your 40s, this is where your finances start to play a little bit more of a key factor in dating here. Although I think the people saying this cope are almost always sub 5 and refuse to acknowledge the fact that looks are important. I mean, if you just think about it, money is a lot easier to get than looks. Therefore, people don't really feel the need to cope about not having money. Whereas genetics play a much bigger role in terms of looks. Most people don't actually know how to Looksmax. They feel the need to cope to say that looks don't matter because A, they either don't know how to improve, or B, they're just stuck in their ways. In my opinion, looks are just as important as money, if not more, as looks are going to open up different pathways in life for you to actually obtain money. I mean, just look at my channel here. I run a Looksmaxxing channel. So I'm going to say this one definitely belongs in serious copeage. Next up, we have gym is cope, face and height is all that matters. Now, straight away, this one is absolutely cope. And to specify the cope that this actually is, it's for people who cannot be bothered to get off the couch. Typically, these ones will be spoken by our own kindred in the Looksmaxxing community, especially the ones at rotten forums at 4 AM. If you're going to act like gym is cope and isn't worth trying for, you're 100% oblivious. Yes, face and height are definitely more important, but the gym is absolutely going to make you look better and plays a huge role in your sex appeal. I would say this one definitely belongs in astronomical cope. But here's the thing, if you do take the gym too seriously, most guys get caught up in the never-ending bulk because they prioritize their physique over their face and never end up truly looking aesthetic. Next up, we have Looksmaxxing is gay. Looksmaxxing is so gay, in fact, that it gets you women. Some people at home are probably thinking there's no way anyone has actually said this shit. Typically, these copes will be spoke by the people who are watching Hamza for the first time, have dug themselves too deep into the red pill, have grown themselves out of pilly beard, have placed masculinity above everything else, and try to ignore any form of visual improvement because that makes them more like a woman, then in turn makes them more feminine, and then makes them more gay. This joke just writes itself because a man who's truly comfortable in his own masculinity would not avoid anything feminine like the plague. If there was another tier to put this one in, I would put it in there. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna do that. Next up, we have people who care about looks are superficial. So this cope is kind of in the same sphere of Looksmaxxing is gay. The only thing I can say to this one is that we live in a superficial world. By not being at least somewhat superficial, you're completely playing a losing game. People will judge you for your looks, and this will impact your life. Take it from me, I've uploaded videos where I look like a subby and got a fraction of the views while uploading virtually the same content. And now I have a career on YouTube because I realized the world is superficial. This isn't just my worldview, this is an objective reality, even more so in the age of social media. At the end of the day, you're going to support whatever worldview and belief you have that serves you the most. People saying this don't look good, and if they were to acknowledge that looks are important, that's when they realize they're cooked. So this one is going to go into astronomical cope. Also, if you'd like to get a free rating of your SMV, where you currently stand and how to improve, you can check my Mocha calculator using the link in the description. Make sure to submit the results truthfully. Let me know your results down in the comment section below. Now back to the video. Cosmetic surgery is for insecure people. This one's interesting. I definitely think you can go a bit too far with cosmetic surgery. And I also think there's a difference between being insecure and acknowledging an objective flaw that you're trying to improve upon. The only time where something like this is insecure is when it's an emotional response. By taking a very calculated and logical approach to cosmetic surgery, this isn't insecure, this is self-mastery. I definitely think you can go too far, especially within the community that we're in, but as long as you keep in mind that you don't want to look like a Bergendorf twin, I don't think this is very insecure. But with that being said, I will play the devil's advocate here. I think for the majority of people who do end up getting cosmetic surgery are indeed insecure. For example, a very regularly performed cosmetic surgery is a rhinoplasty. A lot of women get this one because they don't like the way their nose looks. That's somewhat of a logical and an emotional response there. However, a more calculated and logical approach would be assessing the rest of the face, and most of the time in these cases, where they decide to go through rhinoplasty, they actually should have gotten a genioplasty or some form of jaw surgery. And the reasoning for this is because the nose tends to look over projected when the jaw is under projected. So all in all, I think people who say this phrase cosmetic surgery is for insecure people don't have a true understanding or grip on how effective it can actually be and how important looks actually are in today's day and age. But because I think there's truth to this saying, I'm going to put this one into somewhat copy. Next up, we have height isn't that important. I think we all know what kinds of people are saying this, but then again, I think tall people and short people are always likely to say this because it's very much virtue signaling. I mean, how terrible would you feel to say to someone's face when they're 5'7" and you tell them that, hey bro, height is important. You are actually going to see negative results because of your height within dating. Yes, women actually do have height filters that they regularly use on dating apps. That is not going to make you feel good. That's going to make you look like a piece of shit, and no one wants to feel like a shit friend or just an asshole, even if it means giving them the truth. Yes, I'm somewhat generalizing here, but I think to also generalize and say that height isn't important is just an illogical statement. But because everyone knows that face is more important, I think there's definitely some truth to this, and you also have to define what not important means. If you say it isn't that important in relation to your entire life and actually finding a girlfriend, I agree. Will you have lower perceived sexual market value? I mean, yeah, you will. That's just a fact. No one ever really wanted to become shorter, and everyone wants to be taller because they know that there's an inherent advantage to it. And the only people that wanted to get shorter, well, they're over 7 feet tall. So I'm going to put this one into cope tier. Next up, we have I have a bad metabolism. I think this is also another obvious one of where this is coming from. I mean, I guess you're not lying. You probably do have a bad metabolism, but that is because of cause and effect. The cause being the astronomical amount of refined sugars and carbohydrates that you're consuming on a nightly basis, and the effect being that you can't see your penis when you look down. I honestly think fat people are probably the biggest cope artists in the entire world, and because they've been doing it for so many years, they're honestly experts at this. They have every excuse in the book. It could be the fact that they have a disease, it could be their metabolism, but it's never going to be their daily lifestyle choices or what they're actually putting into their body. This is beyond an astronomical cope, so I'm going to put this one into the Looksmaxxing is gay tier. Okay, next we have skincare is a scam. Surprisingly, I actually kind of agree with this. I personally have used skincare products in the past myself. We're talking niacinamide, vitamin C, even topicals such as tretinoin, taking medication, benzoyl peroxide. Absolutely nothing worked. Then I fixed my diet and then I went on Accutane. And yeah, since then I really haven't got any skin issues. What was I using for skincare in the meantime? Moisturizer and cleanser. Probably not what you were expecting. I think the skincare industry is absolutely a scam. You're not going to get better skin by using Kendall Jenner's under eye serum or whatever any celebrity is shilling. Now, I'm not saying vitamin C or niacinamide won't work for a lot of people. It definitely will. Will it turn you from a subhumanic orc into Chad Thundercork overnight? Fuck no. So I'm definitely going to say for the most part, skincare is a scam. But I'm talking in relation to the industry. Actually practicing skincare, getting a healthy diet, and using nuclear methods such as Accutane will absolutely work. I think it's just too much truth to this saying for it to validate any form of copingness. Next up, we have fashion is cope. Chad slays wearing homeless rags. I mean, sure, we all know that face, height, body is going to be more important than the clothes that you wear. I mean, if you have wide clavicles, a shredded physique, developed muscles, and a low body fat percentage, there is some truth to it because you can kind of wear just whatever the fuck you want and always look good within reason. Not something that Jordan Barrett would throw on at a Balmain fashion show. Would Chad slay wearing homeless rags? I guess we'll never know. Maybe a social experiment is due to come. But like I said, in terms of the physique, if you're ignoring an entire portion of Looksmaxxing just because you believe it's less important than another factor, you're a lazy piece of shit and it deserves to go on serious copage. Next up, we have eye color doesn't matter. This one's a little bit of a controversial one. I think there's definitely some truth to the saying, and I think it's always going to depend on the individual. For example, I wear blue contacts for my videos because I feel like it fits my natural aesthetic more and looks a lot more striking with my jet black hair and pale skin. Whereas if you're someone like Francisco Lachowski, for example, a lot of people have attempted to put blue eyes on him thinking it's going to make him look better, and it almost never does. The number one thing to Looksmaxxing is harmony. Harmony is at the top of the priority list. So while I believe that eye color does matter, it's just going to depend on what looks the best on each person. If you're thinking about wearing contacts and you don't want to look uncanny, there are definitely some realistic brands that you can buy, but it's always going to look a little bit uncanny as it simply just isn't your natural iris. So for the most part, I'm going to put this one into somewhat copy. Next up, we have I'm intimidating. I don't need to be handsome. We all know who's saying this. It's the meathead guy at your gym. He's already gone bald 20 years ago through abusing grams of testosterone. He's past his prime and he's 100% in denial. This saying also doesn't really make sense. If you're intimidating, it can absolutely be a positive, especially if you're intimidatingly handsome. But if you're just straight up intimidating and look like an ogre, I don't really see the advantage to that, other than scaring off other males so that there's no one left. I would honestly say this definitely works for older women, but I don't really think anyone on this channel is looking to get girls in their 40s and 50s. So I'm going to put this one into serious copage. Next up, we have just be confident, bro. That's all that matters. Tell that to the sub 5 when you get into cold approach. Simply, confidence is lived experience. It's the positive feedback loop. And if you've lived your life with a negative feedback loop, you simply are not able to be confident. Just like how Steph Curry practices 3-pointers every single day. He can throw one up in the air, turn around, because he's done it so many times. And keyword, succeeded. You can definitely get calcified to the negative feedback loop, that's for sure. But I'm not too too sure why you do that to yourself. And we all know who's saying just be confident. It's guys who look like this. So I'm going to put this one into cope tier, only just because it's usually Chad saying this one. And Chads don't really need to cope, like I said before. They're more or less coping for you. Also, if you guys watch my channel quite regularly, you'll know that I actually do one-on-one Looksmaxxing mentoring. This is where I personally guide you through an entire Looksmaxxing transformation from A to Z, leaving no questions asked and guiding you the whole way through the process. Whether you're a beginner or you're advanced, you'll absolutely get a life-changing transformation out of this. So if you're interested, check the second link in the description, book a free discovery call with me, and I'll see you soon. And now we have status over everything. I hear this one being talked about a lot, and I definitely think status is absolutely one of the most important things. So much so that I actually think it's probably more important than your looks. I run a Looksmaxxing channel, but I'm not going to be that biased. Just look at Drake. He'd probably get rated as sub 5 in the Looksmaxxing community. I don't actually think he is, but it shows that a guy who's slightly above average can absolutely clean up if they have astronomical amounts of status. Although the people saying this one day hope to be famous and hope it can compensate for their lack of looks. So for those people, I would say it's definitely some serious copage. But for the most part, if a normal average Joe is saying this, I'm gonna have to put it into not a cope. So we'll even it out and we'll put it into somewhat copey. Now we have, it's all genetics. There's nothing you can do. I think we all know that genetics are very important, but I also think we all know that you can improve no matter what base that you're born with. Genetics are obviously going to be extremely important, and I think this one definitely ties into cosmetic surgery is for insecure people. Because let's be honest, if you're born with a sub 3 base and you're telling that guy not to do cosmetic surgery because he's insecure, but he was simply born with bad genetics, and that's all he can do to actually ascend to an average level, that's kind of just setting them up for failure. I do believe if we were Looksmaxxing though, selecting our character traits in the pre-life menu screen would probably be the biggest Looksmax you could do. But now because we've spawned in and we're actually on this earth, I would say the people saying this are definitely the types of people to scroll on forums at 4 AM, like I mentioned before. So I'm going to put it into astronomical cope, simply because we have one life and why wouldn't you try? All bullshit aside, I think anyone preaching this message is a bottom of the bucket crab. So don't listen to that terrible advice and don't let them pull you down with them. Stop trying to change yourself, be happy as you are. So if it's all genetics and there's nothing you can do was the black pill version of saying this, this would be the blue pill version of saying this. Both of them are versions of saying, I don't want you to improve, I don't want you to be better than me, and I don't want you to increase the competition. To be honest, blue pillars piss me off a lot more than black pillars do, and they fail to realize that Looksmaxxing is just another form of self-improvement. I think these people have a lot of work to do in terms of their open-mindedness, and simply don't value looks as someone like us would. There's obviously nothing wrong with that, but to virtue signal and preach that mindset like it's something that's going to help out everyone, it's just fucking annoying, to be honest. So I'm going to put this one into Looksmaxxing is gay. Now we have eyes are the prize. So this is typically saying that eyes are the most important feature on your face, more important than the jaw, the rest of the facial structure, height, everything. This is usually used as a comparison between the eyes versus jaw debate. It seems like online people really can't agree on which is more important, the eyes or the jaw. Personally, I think the eyes are the most important, as A, it's the hardest to improve, and well, I guess it's the window to your soul. I think a guy with a subpar jaw and an amazing eye area can absolutely look insane. However, the opposite isn't true. Rami Malek is a great example of that. So I'm going to put this one into not a cope. Next up, we have lean is life. This was a saying popularized by myself, and I'm definitely going to take this one to the grave. Body fat is the single most important Looksmax you can do besides selecting your character traits on the pre-menu screen. If you're not lean, you're not trying. And if you're getting surgery before you get lean, you have some issues, especially the people who get the liposuctions in their stomach or just any form of facial surgery. Pretty damn stupid if you ask me. So I'm going to put this one into not a cope, plain and simple, get lean, call it a day. And finally, jaw is law. Yeah, I definitely think the jaw is somewhat law into looking better as a person, or at least maxing out your own potential. The jaw, in my opinion, is probably the second most important trait on your face besides the eye area. Improving the jaw is prevalent, not only to look like a Chad, but look more masculine as well. People saying this though typically try to push the narrative that it's more important than the eye area, usually because, well, their jaw is better than their eye area, which is typically the case for a lot of people. Personally, I think the jaw and the eye area are very close, so I'd be inclined to put it into not a cope and somewhat copey tier. So I'll put it at the end of somewhat copey. Alright, that seems like a pretty even spread. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a comment down below what you'd like to see next, mog your past self, and I'll see you in the next one.